Peace and Islam. Welcome unto the Amexem-Moor-Empire, Department for the Communications, Morse Internet, Televideo-Network, or M.I.T.N for short. It is a part of the Imperial Broadcasting Agency. For the record, today's date on the Amexem-Moor calendar is Love Day, the 14th of Abusin, the year 301-630. I am the Honorable Noble Tina Awat-Il. I serve as the lead video broadcast agent, and I shall be your hostess for this broadcasting segment. This is the Amexem-Moor-Empire Perspective, segment 25, entitled Briefings within the Business Trainings within the Amexem-Moor-Empire, Islam. So it is my honor and my privilege to welcome back to our segment the distinguished Noble Rajani Ali. And Peace in Islam, CCO.
Peace in Islam, Honorable Noble Tina.
Islam, great to have you back on our segment. We'll get right into it. So my question, first one that is, what are your observations from the recent briefings or business training that we had within the Amexem-Moor-Empire regarding the topics covered? Islam.
My observation from the briefings that we have been receiving in regards to business matters inside the Amexem-Moor jurisdiction is important. It's an important topic because currently trade and commerce is being adjusted around the current globe, if you will, and each nation, you have foreign nations and you have local governments, foreign governments, and we have our government. So a change is being adjusted as far as in where folks source things, and logistics is important. We also have discussed how to deal with packaging, because that's one of the most important things that happens. All products have some sort of packaging. So we've discussed that heavily. Also, we observed that our training instructor, His Imperial Majesty, has thoroughly thought out ways to address and mitigate environmental issues when it comes to trade. So these are some of the things I observed again, logistics as far as in shipping, supplies, how to ship so that you have the right weights, so that way you can properly make the right adjustments to your ledger as far as exchange. We also discussed the environmental effects that are currently taking place and ways to mitigate that or make improvements. And lastly, the realignment around the globe as far as in sourcing, where things are going to be sourced from is going to be important. As a lot of folks is seeing so-called the effects of tariffs, if you will, some folks are seeing that it's going to be a new way of getting supplies if they want those supplies. So that's what I've observed. Any other questions?
Islam, yes. So a follow-up to that, of the topics covered so far, what do you think are some of the challenges that the nationals within the Amexem-Moor-Empire face day to day?
Islam. Some of the challenges that some of the Amexem-Moor nationals could be potentially facing, from my perspective, is 4 major points, if you will. The first one is dealing with correct vocation. From what I can sense, is vocational sense is not maybe cultivated. So the vocational sense is needed. Secondly, awareness of the market, as far as in the specific market that Amexem-Moor National wishes to engage in. Third, organizational order, as far as organizational order and structure, as far as in whatever business they're choosing, it has to have some type of order to it. And lastly, that business model has to be properly marketed to the market. So a needs assessment. So if you will, assessments. So I feel like some of the main things that any national could do is first do a check on themselves as far as vocational awareness. They have to cultivate vocational awareness. And vocational awareness could be defined as a sense of knowing your duty and responsibility to the collective. This is not taught in most schools, how to cultivate vocational awareness. Usually folks go to educational facilities, halls of learning, and information is jammed into them, and they have not cultivated the students' vocation. Vocation is a calling. It's to call out that which already exists. If anyone on this video call does an assessment to observe most civilizations, they'll notice that what all civilizations usually have is folks who are workers, folks who are merchants, warriors, teachers / philosophers, and then you have outcasts. The outcast is a combination of maybe a wide variety of things, but those are folks that are outside the norm. And so with that being stated, if you're a worker, creating a business might be challenging because you have the mentality to do and act. So you might have to come together with those who are an outsider or who a merchant, if you will, to combine with them to create a business. So some of our nationals might not be merchants, might be workers, they might be warriors. But if a warrior, right, does an assessment, they'll notice that they may be able to combine with merchants and be knowing how to maybe supply home defense equipment, if you will, to someone. So that might be a niche for one who has the warrior mentality to begin to learn that, this is my inner calling. I'm a warrior. Nevertheless, we have to have a way of trade. So I'm going to provide things that folks can do to protect themselves. So that's one example. Next, so an assessment is needed. The vocational sense has to be developed, and the vocational sense must be learned. Like, what is my vocational sense? You have to do an assessment here. So the second point is the market. Once the vocational sense is developed, the law of supply and demand dictates the market. So once you know your vocational sense, you know your true calling, then one can do an assessment. Some call it data analytics or data analysis of your local government or local environment, if you will, to detect maybe the local government might need a product or a service. And you, as the merchant, could supply it. Or it could be another business. You do an assessment, a needs analysis on the local level and say, hey, this business needs this, and this is connected to my vocation, directly or indirectly. I might be able to provide that. And lastly, business to so-called consumer or customer. business to consumer or customer is still on the local level, I recognize that the individuals in this location, from my research or investigation, have a need for a way to get sunlight, if you will, or increase their intake of vitamin D in the winter months. So what things can we do? Do I use some kind of food source? Is it some type of light therapy? I might create something that allows one to increase their vitamin D intake for folks who are melanated. Anyway, all these things are looking at the market and doing a market assessment once you have your vocational sense on track. Also inside the market, there are up times and down times of the market. For instance, we're coming up on what some will call autumn, and during the autumn cycle, a lot of the vegetables and fruits that we were eating in this time frame are going to be dying off. So it's going to be an adjustment, a change takes place. So anyway, that's market as far as on a local, not a local level, but the customer level. Most customers may not be aware of food combinations that 2 weeks or 2 strongs, if you will, before the seasonal shift, maybe September 22nd, 21st range. 2 strongs before that, it's a good idea to maybe eat moderate, well-cooked, stewed or fruit stewed veggies, very cooked very well, because the gut biome or the intestines has to eliminate the foods that we were used to in the summer. And it's more cooling foods that are needed in the summer. And then when you move to the autumn and the winter, you're going to need more heating foods, more warm and more oily foods. So the gut biome and the gut intelligence has a need. It needs for you to stop eating cucumbers and watermelons because they're cooling, coconuts, they're cooling, and not eat as much raw foods because they aggravate the constitution, because it's going to be cold and wintry and it's dry foods. And then the need assessment is now it's time to eat warm, soft, nutritious food. And sometimes folks eat sweets in that regards. So anyway, this is a market assessment on a customer level that they have to make adjustments, not because they want to, but because their body dictates that. The body dictates every action in a commercial exchange, at least one that's based on true needs. So when we're looking at the vocational sense, you look at the market. This is a good place for any Amexem-Moor national to start, is the vocational sense and the market. And then they can move forward with order and structure of how do I set up my business? How is it ordered? Like, it's based off the assessments. Then the order and organization is structured around that. So first you have to create something. And then once it's created, then you can have bylaws or constitution that governs how it runs. Anyway, the other points are irrelevant right now. The more important points are a vocational sense has to be developed, cultivated, and refined. And then a market analysis is needed to then provide the best of your service or the best of your product or the best experiences that you might offer. Some folks are maybe fun to be around and they bring a liveliness to an environment. So they have a unique business model. It would be related to experiences. So the user experiences or the customer experience, they can help to activate that. Any following up questions to this?
So much for the examples that you've given so far. My last question was regarding proactive steps that we can take as nationals to combat some of the environmental challenges that we're dealing with, such as plastics that are ending up in our organs, in the food supply, water, in our environment as a whole. So what is your take on that regard, Islam?
Islam. As far as nationals in context with constructing a business, right? So it's context, I say, because there are microplastics that are inside the physical vessel. So detoxification processes obviously are important. But as far as in the constructing or the creation of a new business, you literally have a open window to create best use practices in manufacturing, our best use practices in our product. How do I produce products that are environmentally safe, right? So doing some investigation in your specific vocation, or in your specific sector, excuse me. Once you discover your sector and you do analysis in the market, then you bring in a product, service, or an experience to the local or greater environment or greater collective. So with that being stated, we'll be looking at either the fabrication or the creation of a product, and that product needs to be housed and protected. Now, the housing, instead of it being the plastic, what type of housing can you cover your product with? It might be an assessment needed. Some call it green chemistry, a way to create a housing that actually can break down in nature naturally. So that was one way we can eliminate the overuse of microplastics, is through the creation of new ways to house products that have to be shipped. That's very important. So the creating of a product and the protecting of that product. Also, going back to working with nature, one may want to investigate through, it could be reflective writing, it could be investigating on the internet. It's multiple ways to investigate things. So I'm not going to dictate how you investigate, but they might do a needs analysis on what are the top industries that are looking for environmental solutions. And Amexem-Moor National can become a consultant, if you will, or expert in the field, because they have a knowledge that there's a problem there, right? From the assessment, they see it's a problem and is not being filled with somebody who has expertise in the matter. And so with ingenuity, intelligence, investigation, they can come up with a solution for a service-based or a products-based or experience-based business model. I'll give one example of, you may be in an environment that has experiences, right? And these experiences are event planning. So you create an ESG friendly business model around event planning. So you source supplies or you create supplies, right, that allow you to have an eco-friendly business structure. So cradle to cradle. So it goes back to the earth. So once you create it, it can go back to earth in an organic, natural way without creating an environment to the ecology. Because the ecology is important because we're dependent on it. So a lot of the microplastics found in water, found in food, because folks have not had a relationship with the environment. They have had a relationship, but it's been a toxic relationship, if you will. And if you look at this entire process and all the questions that have been asked so far, is actually boiling down to a relationship issue. The first one was the relationship with self. That's why the vocational sense has to be developed. The second is the vocational, not the vocational sense, but the second one is the relationship with the external environment. And how do I provide something that's needed to the external environment? So that's another relationship. Relationship with self first, relationship with the external environments is second. And then lastly, one can then begin to create some structure and order once they have some better groundwork as far as for a relationship with self and the external environment. Then they can truly give. But the relationships are important. And we haven't had when I say we, but for the most part, most nationals are in the beginnings of a place where they can really provide services, because a lot of the companies that exist have not created a sound relationship with the environment. So really folks are looking for ways to invest and spend their resources in products or services that are considering a healthier relationship with the environment. So once you find your vocation and your business model structure, and you do a needs analysis of what your product or service can provide to the market, then you can then provide this to the local government or greater collective. It depends on where you did your market research. I think that's important. Like, a lot of environmental business models could be useful. Those are for folks who are conscious of it. Some folks may not be aware of it, and it'll be detrimental. They'll be damaging themselves, but this is will be a good business, and it's what His Imperial Majesty calls responsible capitalism. I'll conclude with that. There's more points to discuss, but as always. So, do you have any follow-up questions?
That concludes my portion for questioning. Any last closing remarks that you have for our audience? You are welcome to share at this particular time. Islam.
If you have any questions on cultivating the vocational sense, you can always drop us a message on our channel, and I'll receive that from Honorable Nobutina, and we can discuss ways to cultivate the vocational sense, because that's your starting point. With that, I have no other further questions or comments.
Islam, gratitude, Cecil. I apologize for that. Just want to take this moment on behalf of the Morse Internet Televideo Network, myself, we say thank you for all of your answers and to my questions, and we thank you for your service. Islam. And to our wonderful audience, just a quick correction. This is segment 26. And so more information regarding the Amexem-Moor-Empire Imperial Government operations down to the local level, information can be found on the website modernmoormonarchy.squarespace.com. That website again, modernmoormonarchy.squarespace.com. Please show us some love, leave a positive feedback. I would appreciate it. We all would, and we thank you in advance. We are also encouraged to share a link of this segment and all of our previous segments to all who you associate with. And until next time, on behalf of His Imperial Majesty, the entire Amexem-Moor-Empire nationals, all of our fellow Amexem-Moor-Empires earthwide, we say peace, great health, and prosperity upon all of you and upon all of us. And with that, we say Islam.
Islam.